What's going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode of the Film Room, where we're going to be diving into the offensive line play from Saturday's contest against the Carolina Panthers, paying specific attention to the right side of the line. We finally got some guys back and healthy. We got Bradley Bzoeman in at center, seems to be recovering from that ankle injury. We got Kevin Zeitler back, and Alejandro Villaneuva's in. We're going to also look at the first combination here. As you can see, again, stats brought to you from @Yoshi2052 over on Twitter. We're going to have Powers in at left guard and Makari in at left tackle, but we're really going to be focusing in on, some of the things that right side of the line did, and, what they did well, what they didn't do well, where we think they could do some better things going forward. If you guys are enjoying this series, if you're enjoying all the offensive line play, hit the like button, hit subscribe so you can find your way back for more content, and let's get right into it. So we're looking at 18 snaps. I clipped about 10 plays, maybe 9 plays out of this sample. So, we're looking at most of the plays, but I think there's a lot to break down here. And we're going to start with, let me pause it here. So we're going to start with actually the first play of the game. This was a play that really excited me, specifically because of the play of the right side of the line. This is going to be a split zone left. The difference between it being split zone and inside zone is Ricard, who's aligned here as the H-back, is going to come down and kick out the backside defensive end. Everybody else across the line is going to be taking his own step left and blocking. So let's run it through, and then we'll come back and break it down and break down specifically why I like this play so much. Dobbins hits a cutback. Boom. Nice little tote to start the game. So I want to focus in on a few things here. I also want to remind people, this is Derek Brown. This is Daquan Jones. They also have Brian Burns and the kid that they got from, Hassan Reddick. So, they started most of their actual starters in this game. I think that's important because most of the snaps from their first drive are going to be in this breakdown, and we're seeing our ones against their ones. So, I've seen a lot of people talking about the competition on the line. People talked about it in the Saints game. The only starter that didn't play the first drive or two in the Saints game was Cam Jordan. They had Davenport out there. They had their defensive tackles. I think that's important to note. So, I just wanted to throw that out there for context. So, again, key play here. We're going to see Zeitler and Alejandro Villanueva, the right guard, right tackle. We're going to see them deuce block on Derek Brown here, and then watch Villanueva here at right tackle climb up. Again, Ricard's going to come down and kick out this defensive end. And watch him on the cut block here, or cutback. So they've comboed Derek Brown. They have control. Zeitler's starting to take over. Now, Ricard, I think, gets a little late over here, and that's fine. I think what Dobbins is seeing, and this highlights how great his vision is. He's seeing not a lot of movement here, and so he's going to hit that cutback lane. And that's what's so nice about a split zone play is when Ricard comes down and kicks this guy out, it gives you that cutback lane, and that's what Dobbins exposes here. But watch Alejandro Villanueva when I run it. Watch what he does to get into the linebacker here. There, see that? And I want to pay particular attention here. See his head? His head is on the outside shoulder of the linebacker, and this is important because this play is going to get brought up later, and it's so important when we see Villanueva getting out into the second level to hit that combo block that he's getting his head across. It's something that stood out to me watching some of his Steelers film. I highlighted it last week in the Alejandro Villanueva video. It's something that he struggled with in terms of his ability to re-engage when he gets into level 2. We saw him end up on his butt because he overran Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last week. And so, this was him answering that well. We're going to see him do it later where he doesn't do it as well. I think it's going to be a concern that's going to come up all year, but it is nice to see him lay this block. And then Dobbins just hits a nice cutback. Zeitler's holding Brown down. That's a good play to get started here. And if we want to take a look inside kind of where they get stagnated on the left side, here we got Bzoeman, here we got Powers. I thought Bzoeman and Powers did an okay job here. There's just not movement here. There's not movement like there is over here. It's not that it was a bad block. I'm sure Dobbins could have hit it, but he's got the linebacker filled. He knows he's got the will linebacker getting seal blocked over here. So he hits that, and nice little gain. So I think that's a good start for the Ravens. First play of the game, they're getting 6 on the ground. Definitely a big difference from last week where we saw them having a really hard time with that first unit getting movement. Now we're going to go into a series of power plays. And, I saw this talked about a lot. The linebacker from the Panthers talked about how they kept running power over and over again to the point where the Panthers knew it was coming. Newsflash to anyone that's been watching the Ravens, they run a ton of power every game. This isn't something that Greg Roman just threw out and then decided to keep calling. They've been a gap-heavy team since 2019. And it's one of those things. I had a discussion about it on Twitter. Look at a team like the Titans. Look at a team like the Vikings. That run zone blocks. Any linebacker playing against them could say they know what's coming because they are running zone plays over and over and over again. Anyway, we won't get too far into that, but I did want to take a look at some of these. This one is a pretty interesting play. So again, we're looking at a power play. So we're going to see the right side of the line. They're all going to block down from, Bzoeman, Zeitler, Villaneuva, and I believe that's Ricard in there. Powers is going to pull over as the lead blocker. And he's trying to hit a level 2 block to spring this run. So let's run it through and see what happens. So not much room there. Now, when I first watched this block, where I was fixated on was at this point right here where, it seemed like they weren't getting any movement inside. And then I kind of wondered, why did Powers have to kick out the end here? And, after kind of going back and thinking about it, it's hard to say. Usually this guy is getting kicked out by someone, and that's an important part because in the next 2 plays, I'm going to show how they've done that. I don't know. I can't see the number here, but I think this receiver is supposed to kick this guy out or, at least make it a block on him. You see him go out into the DB out here, but this guy shouldn't be left free. We don't usually see the Ravens play the power game this way, and I think it's important because when Powers makes his pull, he's got to take he's supposed to be looking inside at the linebacker, which would be this linebacker right here. You can see the combo block coming right here out to this linebacker, which is that would be the Mike. So Powers should be going inside to hit the will here, but he has to hit the edge player because you can't leave him unblocked. So Powers kicks him here, right here, 72 kicking out that guy. That's the right call by Powers. That's a good read. He made a good block on the pull. It's just that guy shouldn't have been left unblocked. So Dobbins is going to cut it up here. We see a nice block out here. See Villaneuva. I want to highlight Villaneuva here again because this is another one of those blocks where he gets out in space and he's getting out on this linebacker. So again, if this guy's kicked out and Powers can pull into this blocker, Zeitler has a seal here. And so if Powers is blocking this guy's kicked out, there's going to be space here because of how good Villanueva's combo block was on this linebacker. But I originally thought Zeitler made a bad block here. But, based on the purpose of the play, this should be coming behind Villanueva and Zeitler. So all Zeitler's thinking is Powers is pulling in behind him. So he's just hitting a seal block. And you can see it right there. He's got his leverage. Again, if this guy's kicked out, Powers is curling in behind Zeitler, hitting that guy, run is sprung. So, I originally, this is why, and you'll hear me say this a few times tonight, this is why it's so important to understand the play when you're making assessments. Because originally I thought Zeitler had a bad block, but based on the purpose of the play, with Powers supposed to be blocking this guy, he hits a seal block. He's got his leverage. He's got that guy turned inside. Dobbins cuts it in because he's not going to run into an unblocked guy. So he just cuts it in, and the guy that Zeitler's blocking makes the tackle because he's turned sideways. But again, Zeitler's supposed to do that. That's his assignment. I think he executed it well. You could look at his technique. Maybe he's a little high, whatever, but he executed his assignment. So now let's take a look at a power play where they have that guy kicked out. So it's going to be, again, a power to the right, and you can see even in the thumbnail, Ricard's kicking this guy out. So let's run it through. Go back. So you're going to see him come in motion across. We've seen Ricard do this so many times. Right there, he kicks him out. Now Powers doesn't have to kick him because he's got Ricard coming. He can go into level 2. And remember I talked about Villanueva earlier, getting his head across that guy? This is a very similar play. So, here's what I want to look at with Villanueva. We just had 2 plays where we saw him make nice combo blocks into the second level, get his head across. Here, we're going to see him not do it as well. Now, one of the key things of these power concepts is Villaneuva and Zeitler are who we're running behind. So, think back to 2019 when we ran this play so well. That was Marshall Yonda and Orlando Brown Jr. Their ability to hit this double team on this guy right here and then get Orlando Brown Jr. is what made out into space is what made this block so good. So what we're going to see is they hit that double team. Zeitler takes him over. I believe can't tell if it's no. The starters are out, so this is one of their backups. But Villanueva now has to get out into this linebacker and, like I said, get his head across. But what we see here, so Powers hits his block. That's perfect. But Villanueva doesn't get his head across. And that's the guy that disrupts his play. And look who Villanueva's on his butt. So this is very similar to what we saw last week where, he's, you can see him hit this double team so hard. So he almost gets too into it where he can't open his right foot into getting into the second level. And so because of that, he's stuck basically just trying to use only his right arm because he didn't get his head across to make that block. That's no bueno. Not too many guys are going to be able to make, an open arm. It's like making an open arm tackle. It's just not going to happen. So, a couple of nice things here. I think, that double team's great. It's just we got to get him off into the second level and allow him to get across the guy. It is a tough block. The linebackers played it well. They read their keys, but, ideally we're going to see that block made and then that sprung. But I got to credit Powers here. Powers with a good pull. That's 2 back-to-back well-read pulls. So good for Powers. Now we're going to see it one more time. Same idea. We're running power to the right. Powers is pulling. Let's run it through. Skip the play. Yeah. So this play is not cooperating. There we go. So again, Ricard is now here, and this is kind of the different ways that they've run this, power, because we've seen Ricard in motion. Now we see him lined up back in shotgun in a fullback alignment. It is one of the ways that I talked about on Twitter today where they can run, the same concept, but use motion, use formations to make it look different. And, that's what this is. So we're going to see Powers pull again behind the right side of the line, blocking down to their left. Backside guy gets kicked out by Ricard. Powers pulls through here. Everyone hits their blocks. Duvernay with a nice effort there. I think if Gus had a little bit more control, he kind of takes a jump cut, which is fine. I mean, he ends up getting the first down on 3rd and 3. But, ideally we get him with a little bit more balance and he can cut left, but, not everything gets to be perfect in this game. So, what I like here is that right side of the line, everyone's block is made here. And nice little lane here. Powers, hits a seal block. And because he's been such a focus for his run blocking, let's watch Villanueva. So again, Villanueva and Zeitler, that's who we're running behind. This guy's going to go unblocked. We're going to focus in on this guy. Watch Zeitler, or watch Alejandro Villanueva come out of this. See him throw his right arm into this guy? So this is a little ugly, but he's just trying to get hands on to kind of create that crease and make a second level block. It's a nice effort there. He stays standing. I'll take that over him trying to over pursue a guy's shoulder and ending up on his butt like we saw. So, again, we saw a lot of these powers. I think that right side of the line looks really nice blocking down, and first down. That's what we want to see. Now we're going to get into, this was my favorite play of the game. This is the 3rd and 1 with Gus Edwards. Luckily we actually have an end zone angle on this, so we're going to watch it on the broadcast angle. We'll get an end zone angle. I think it was from the replay, so we'll watch that too. So just a nice tote. And we're going to see this even closer. Watch Kevin Zeitler. He makes this a bit more. This play is interesting to me because I had a hard time IDing what the play call was. What we're going to see is from Zeitler over to Oliver. So from the right guard all the way over to the tight end here, we're going to see everybody do what looks like a zone left step. So everyone's going to slant this way. So I originally watched this play and I was like, okay, inside zone left that, they took. They have a lead blocker in Ricard here. They're running it out of I. Perfect. But watch when I play it, watch Villaneuva and Tomlinson here. Both are going to go right. See that? So that's not inside zone left, obviously, because, maybe one of them makes the wrong call. I have a hard time believing that both of them, didn't know the play. And, this is important because the other thing here is Makari. Makari goes out very wide on 53 here instead of attacking 31. So, I started thinking, is this duos? Because there's two double teams. That's the purpose of duos. Then I wondered, is it some sort of old school, ISO lead block play? I actually am leaning towards duos. I'm going to be sending this around. I sent it to a few people. We had a hard time because everything looks, a little weird. Usually you don't see the doubles on both sides, but the double teams in a duos concept are determined by the defensive alignment. The other thing I want to highlight on this play, let's run it through from this angle, and then we'll take a look at a few things. See Zeitler, just what a beast. So that's a thing of beauty right there. Now, the other thing that I think this play really shows is Gus Edwards' vision. If you guys watched the running back preview that James Ogden and I did, we talked about Gus Edwards. What has he shown the most development in? And it was his vision. Ricard is going to go out here towards the B gap, and you'll see 54 flow over to Ricard. So watch. He's reading Ricard, who goes wider. Gus Edwards is coming more like an inside run, through an A gap. That's also part of the reason I did think this was, an old school ISO. So he goes through there. He ends up hitting 31. That could be why Makari went wide here. I'm really not sure. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But, that's Gus, cutting it inside, finding that lane, making a guy miss. Something he's done so well for this team is making the first guy miss and getting extra yards. But the hero on this play, my favorite play from Kevin Zeitler, this was probably my favorite play of the entire game, is just watch what he does to Daquan Jones with his leverage. So do you see right here? This is what made this play work. His arm, his left arm, is so wide that he's going to get that outside or that inside shoulder of Daquan Jones. And this is so important because he's lined up as a 2-eye. So he needs to cross his body, but he needs to get inside leverage on him. So when he hits that, he gets the helmet across. He's got the arm up high. He's created that leverage. He's nice and low. He's going into his drive, and he's just going to drive. You guys will remember me talking about it last year. What's our our engagement point walkthrough? Strike, leverage, drive, finish. So we have had him get that arm up. There's the strike. Now he's going to have the leverage created because he got his head across and he's got inside position on his shoulder. Now he's driving and he's finishing. That's a thing of beauty from Kevin Zeitler. This is, like I said, one of my favorite plays in this game. Let's watch it one more time. He makes that block or makes this play happen. He's got no leverage on him. Just absolutely beautiful. Now we're going to get into a few of what I thought were probably their down plays on this for the Ravens on this in this game with the starting unit. The context here is I think the starting unit played really well, but I do want to be transparent. I want to show an honest story. I don't want to just be a highlight reel over here. So we're going to take a look at a couple plays where that right side of the line or the whole line for that matter didn't get the job done. So let's watch this first play. So right here, we just don't have guys getting movement. They're stood up. I think the guy that really, I think had the hardest time here was Zeitler because Bzoeman comes in on the combo block, but Zeitler didn't get outside leverage on the defensive tackle. So Bzoeman is driving him actually into the play, into the run path. Zeitler needs to get on this outside shoulder of the defensive tackle, but he's inside on him. So they're kind of driving him exactly where Dobbins is going. So that's no bueno. But, like I said, you take a look at that last play, Zeitler leads blocks on a first down on a 3rd and short. not every play is going to be perfect, but, here's what I think happens here. He doesn't get outside leverage on this guy after he hits that strike. He's not able to drive block him back to open that gap. But that's all right. And then I want to take a look at the counter bash play that the Ravens ran on third down. This was a ballsy call on your own goal line. So here we are, 3rd and 10. We all know about the counter bash. It's a play that Lamar Jackson ran so darn well last year. He had a number of touchdowns off of long gains. And what's going to happen is we're going to see Powers and Makari pull to the right. Again, the pullers are decided based on the defensive alignment. There's no one over Powers, so that's why he's the guard pulling. Makari's going to follow him. These guys are supposed to hit clear out blocks. And so let's run it through. And see, they eat it up. And there's nowhere to go. So I guess the big question is, what happens here? Do you see these push-offs right here? This is what I found Carolina did so well on their defensive line, is these guys stayed disciplined. They're going to push off, and rather than attacking, they're trying to read. So we saw this on a few play actions where guys stayed in their rushing lanes. It's kind of a similar concept because I bet they were expecting – I wouldn't say they were expecting a counter bash. They weren't using outside zone to try and set it up like we saw them do in 2020, but – this is how they were playing the play actions, is they were staying very disciplined. And so when they stand up here, what happened a lot last year is the defensive line would start chasing the outside zone path of the running back, because that's the fake. He's going to take an outside run path, and that's supposed to get the entire defense to flow to the left. And then when these guys pull around, they're hitting seal blocks. The defensive line or the offense or the play side of the offensive line is hitting down blocks. The pullers come in and hit seal blocks. That's what opened all those gaps for Lamar. When he goes down, this is where normally we see this guy flow, but this guy doesn't. He stays. He hesitates, but he's not, getting running that way. And that means those seal blocks can't come away. But the defensive end here, Villaneuva is not able to. Ideally, we'd like to see him get hands on and drive him out. This is a bad block by Villaneuva. But, it's this defensive end pushing off and then staying square. That's what makes this play. He sets the edge. He makes the play. So on one hand, Villaneuva didn't get the job done. On the other hand, I'm going to give it to the Panthers. I saw them be disciplined like this all night. This is a great idea or a great play where you're going to see where discipline pays off. It's going to pay off on play actions that they ran as well, because they just weren't biting on the play action. They were staying in their rushing lanes and then getting pressure early because they weren't flowing. So now we're going to get into, we've wrapped up run blocks. I think one of the biggest takeaways is we saw a good mixture. We saw Zeitler win. We saw Villaneuva win. We saw Bzoeman play pretty darn well. He was able to hit most of his blocks. He had a pretty quiet game. I'll take that from my center any day. So, we saw guys win. We saw guys lose. That's okay. I think overall that right side of the line was much improved over last week. You can see, Bzoeman playing a lot better with more competent guard play, with Zeitler playing there. And I'll give it to Ben Powers. He had a great game too, played way better than last week. So, that's what gives me some encouragement, seeing Zeitler step in and make a difference, seeing Bzoeman's play improve by playing between better guard play, and seeing some improvement from Alejandro Villanueva. And now we're going to get into pass plays where we're going to start off with a play that I think is just a really interesting breakdown because, we'll get into it, but it's going to show a slide protection where I think they didn't have the right slide protection in. And then we're going to look at two pass plays where I think you're really going to see what that right side of the line can bring from a pass pro perspective. If you guys remember the playoff loss, it was the pass protection on the right side of the line. They got beaten up all day, so we'll get into that. But let's start off with this play. So we'll run it through, and then I'll break down why I thought this was interesting. So what's going to happen here is he's going to come in unblocked and take a lick on Huntley. Okay, so we are showing these two step up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders. It's looking like a 5-man pressure against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5-man protection. This should be pretty easy money. Now, you're going to see the entire offensive line slide protect with a half step right. So it's always hard to tell with slide protects. Was it a protection called by the center? Was it a protection called by the quarterback? Is that just the design of the play because they have the strong side of the field on the right side? These are questions we can't answer. It's what I talked about last week. We don't know the plays. We can make inferences based on what we've seen. We can try and look at what they might have been reacting to. I'm going to run it again, but watch the entire line. Watch right side. See how they all look right? Even Makari looks inside right, and then Makari takes inside man. Now, I saw a lot of people giving Makari a hard time for this play, but if you're in a slide protection right, Bzoeman looks right, Powers is looking right and takes his man. There's no one to block here because of the these guys stepping back. So because of that, Makari has to block the inside man, and that creates the free rusher. When the free rusher comes, it's on Huntley. So the reason I wanted to take a look at this is because I think this is where, based on the and I tried to take a look at this. So again, we see that rusher block off. So it ends up only being actually a 4-man pressure, but they're showing a 5-man pressure. So we need to look at it pre-snap because that's when you'd make the adjustments. So let's say all 5 come. If they go right, that means Zeitler's going to have linebacker here, Bzoeman's going to have him, Powers is going to have him, and Makari is going to look inside because he's in a slide protect right, but then he's going to kick out the edge. But because this guy doesn't come, Powers has to take this guy. Makari now has to take inside man. So the reason I would have been expecting the complete opposite, and that's a half-step slide protection to the left, is because the outside edge player, even when they're showing here, is still lined up, and we can't tell because of not having all 22, but I believe he's either a 4-eye or a 5, probably a 5 tech here. Now over here we have a 7 tech. So I would call a slide protection half step to the left, and that would have Makari kicking out. We'd have Powers probably taking a quick set to set on the defensive tackle. Bzoeman would be taking him. He would be coming over left, taking this linebacker. Villaneuva would be taking a post stepped up, taking this guy. It's the complete opposite. They all go right. He comes free. So again, when we're making assessments on these guys, we have to try and understand what the play call was. The fact that they all slide protect to the right, that's what the assignment was. The guys mostly execute their assignments. Like, there's good protection here. But of course, this guy comes free, whacks Huntley. Unfortunate incompletion. That should have been a completion. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I thought this was interesting just because with the starters out there, for the most part, I think Ben Powers is probably left guard 1 right now. Obviously, Stanley's not there, but this is where we might want to see a better adjustment from the offensive line to compensate for that free rusher. Now we're going to look at 2 pass protections that I thought were just extremely well done. So we're going to leverage play, great protection, something we didn't see. Let's take a look at Villaneuva. This was, what he did here. We saw it last week on that run block where he hit the guy with the snatch and trap, got him down on his stomach. Watch what he does with the edge here. See how he gets his hands up? So you're going to see this a lot if you key in on Villaneuva. Guys are going to try and get low on a 6'9" offensive tackle. One of the things that Villaneuva has done so well is get to a set point early and then use his leverage to push down on the guy. And that's exactly what he does here. And then he sinks and drops his anchor. So he gets those hands down on the shoulder pads and forces him down, but he's controlling his shoulder pads. He's creating that leverage, and then he sinks his hips right here. That's beautifully done by Villaneuva. And see, he's got him on a lock. So Zeitler comes over and gives help because he's looking for work. But, in an individual one-on-one match, he obviously didn't need him. This play was over. Let's watch it again. Villaneuva up here. Hits him, drops anchor, over. Easy play. Inside here, let's take a look at Bzoeman. Bzoeman snaps. Good read. Gets that guy coming over. They're hitting that. I think Powers has a little bit of an uglier set here. You'll see him get off balance. This was a theme last week. They're trying to hit a looper here. See, he comes down this way. Bzoeman sees it. Bzoeman takes this guy over. Makari and Powers don't communicate well enough, but they're able to get it done. The ball comes out. Actually, I thought Makari, it's a little bit ugly, but he recovers quite well. Watch Makari in here. See him using those quick little pepper steps, trying to just kind of stay with him. Again, ugly, but he gets the job done. But, Villaneuva was the highlight on that play. I thought that was just beautifully well done. Running through one more time. I really like the way Bzoeman read this too. Bzoeman was ready for that guy to come to him. He's able to sink down on him. That's a good play there by Bzoeman. And we'll go into the last play of today's breakdown. It's another pass protection. This one at the end of the first. This is actually all the momentum going. So let's watch Villaneuva again because, we just saw him hit a nice vertical set on the guy, hit him with a nice punch, create leverage. Now we're going to see him on a quick set inside here. He's got a heavier guy in front of him. It's not, it's a heavier guy, so he's going to set early on him. He gets that punch. He tries to get into a spot where he's going to bull rush him. Look at Villaneuva. Just, no, you're not going anywhere. And Bzoeman and Zeitler do a great job here inside. They just hit that well. Both of them, what stood out to me with Zeitler here, because he's giving inside help, watch his right foot. See how his right foot is more back? So what he's thinking here is because Villaneuva is in front of him, he wants to have that right foot back so that his hip's open in case Villaneuva needs help. Those two aren't going anywhere. And even Makari and Powers, that's a pretty clean block. He tries to beat Powers. He's got leverage. So, these are the plays from Alejandro Villaneuva. I thought he had a pretty good game. He was really good in pass protection, especially on true pass sets. I think he obviously didn't have the best run blocks that I've ever seen, but we're gonna have to deal with that with Villaneuva. He's known for his pass protection, but I think you can see some of the positives that are coming out of his run block. You can see his athleticism. You can see him get into level 2. What he needs to do is control his body, get back into his shoot. So again, when he cuts back in, he needs to get low, re-engage, hips down, get back into his shoot, and then get into a drive block where you're going to once again hit the strike, leverage, drive, finish. Overall, I thought the line played a lot better. The right side looks good. Bzoeman improving, Zeitler making a difference, Villaneuva improving. What's not to like? This is going to be a pivotal game coming up. I had a tweet about it today. It looks like Stanley might be good enough to play a drive. That's not confirmed. I think most people probably disagree with me, but it's certainly a possibility. If Stanley can get in there and play a drive, and we get Phillips and Cleveland Black, we're going to have two guys that are able to jump in there and, actually make what would be the starting offensive line. Even if only for a drive, it's going to give us a good idea of what we can expect going into week 1 against the Raiders. So, it's exciting times, but, I got to say at the end of this game, when I sat down and kind of thought it through, that right side of the line, you got to be feeling encouraged by it. We looked at pros and cons, but there were a lot more positives than negatives. So that's got to make you feel better. So that's all I got for you today. I'm going to be trying to come back and give you a video that kind of focuses on Powers. He played most of the game at left guard. So obviously the injuries have completely derailed my left guard series. Here I'm popping it back up. We basically only had Powers and Sorrell. But Bredesen also got a long look. So I'm going to try and grab some of Bredesen clips to give you guys an update on how he's doing. But that's all for me today. Like I said, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe so you find the next video when it drops. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.